It was 2021 when I learned something really interesting about women. For most of the year, I was being an absolute little Megatron shit bald Martin Weezer with this one girl that I developed this really unhealthy attachment to. I would message her first thing in the morning most days, boys, right? And without a doubt, we were getting long conversations over Snapchat about some bullshit like TV shows or childhood stuff. And even though she had previously rejected me at least 2 times, I still wanted her, geezer. I trapped myself in a one-sided talking stage for maybe 7 months until one day I was working at my old factory job when I decided to download and listen to this book I heard about for the first time, The Way of the Superior Man. And this audiobook talks about true masculine and femininity. And one of the main takeaways I got from this book was that the perfect relationship dynamic between a masculine and feminine person is for the masculine person, most likely the guy, to always be focused on a mission or his work, and the feminine is always focused on him or the relationship. So while the man takes on new missions, the woman cares about him. And the book said this made a very powerful relationship dynamic where your attraction for each other is at its strongest. You might be thinking, oh, but talking about masculine and feminine is cringe. It's just used too much. I don't exactly think so. I do think the internet has ruined these terms, but this book I read explained masculinity, femininity, polarization, how a man should live his life in such a beautiful and eye-opening way that I started to look at all of my real life interactions with women and in myself, and it hit me that for a lot of 2021 I had lost sight of my real purpose at the time, which was making and releasing music. I was accidentally acting kind of like a woman by putting so much time and energy into this one girl that I wasn't dating, by the way, nowhere near. So much so that my work output was probably at like 10% of what it could have been. My development was slowing down because I focused on this girl. And even this new red pill stuff I was watching was saying that having a purpose in life that you put before anything else makes you a far more attractive man. So I decided to experiment with this girl that had already rejected me. I didn't go like fully monk mode or anything. I just started texting her less frequently. Throughout the day, I'd do more work. I'd read. Obviously, it wasn't very good work. I was still a bit of a retard at the time. But you'll never believe what happened. In fact, you probably will believe what happened. She went from never texting me first to suddenly texting me all the time. Like she was really trying to get my attention again. This tiny energy shift over the phone of just putting myself first made her question where I'd went, and whether she consciously, acknowledged this or not, she was clearly more interested in at least texting me. This really surprised me at the time, and nothing ever came from it because I made a lot of mistakes again past that point, but I really caught a glimpse of what being purposeful could do for you. I'm telling this story because I personally believe from my own experiences that the biggest turn off for women you've already started talking to is when you start to put them before your own life. You don't even really notice it happening. It might look like going from waking up and meditating and working immediately to just starting to check your texts when you open your eyes to see if she's messaged you. It might look like messaging her earlier and earlier. I'm not saying we need to be toxic with girls and purposely leave them undelivered all day. I'm still trying to learn this myself, to be honest, but I do think a woman really notices when you're focused on building yourself up. Mark Manson's book about dating called Models calls it neediness, which to me just means putting too much focus on her to the point it comes across wet. He says that neediness, especially for women, is the absolute most unattractive trait, and a lot of relationships start off very non-needy because both partners aren't that invested yet. But especially with guys, it seems like they might get attached and start thinking about their girl way more than their work, which puts him in a needy position that might make him less desirable. Because deep down, I do think a woman wants you to be ambitious and driven. She says she wants to be your main focus, but she doesn't really want that. I want to tell you a secret actually, which is a coincidence because I planned to make this video the day before last night. But last night I FaceTimed this girl I've been chatting with because, look, I'll put it this way. I realised for the last couple of weeks since we've met that I've not been 100% authentic with who I am. Now, that's actually fine if you're like trying to do red pill, just trying to sleep with girls, but I actually wanted to give this a go with this girl. Now, it actually pained me to be quote unquote honest with a woman because every red pill video ever has taught me that staying mysterious and acting like the avoidant Chad that takes a day to reply is way more attractive. But as of right now, that's still not me, and that only attracts girls who will give you a similar energy back. They'll also be avoidant, they'll be quite toxic. If you've seen more of my videos, then you may know I've been coming to terms with something called anxious attachment, which I'll put a card up for on the screen right now. I decided that since I was actually quite a attached to this girl, the absolute best thing I can do now is just come clean about some of my own values and what I actually feel like when I get attached. Now, this goes against everything in the book of like modern dating, but with FaceTimes, this felt like a huge risk because she might wake up today and realise she doesn't like me anymore. But that's actually a good thing, because if she can't come to terms with who I actually am, then I've just saved both of us time, because we were never meant to be anyway. I full on told her about my anxious attachment. I didn't say I was like suffering and shit, but what if she loses interest and doesn't want to sleep with you? I don't want to just fucking shag her, right? Anyway, as of now, it seems okay, and something happened last night. We nearly met up, but we didn't, and then she fell asleep on call to me. And do you know what? I decided to leave the call on. I stayed present for a while and just took in the pleasant experience, because this sort of stuff doesn't always happen. I know it's not very alpha of me, but I did tell myself something. Regardless of what happens when she wakes up or whatever happens, I'm waking up before her and I'm getting to work. Because you can argue whether what I'm doing is wet right now. Maybe it is. I think it was quite nice. But her waking up before me, watching me roll out of bed and not acting like a purposeful man that's trying to do something with his life, now that would be genuinely quite sad. So yeah, you can call it performative, like I'm doing it on purpose to prove a point to her, but if it gets me up and working, then I'm okay with that, because I think that's kind of the reason you want to spend time with women anyway, to inspire you to become harder working. I woke up at 7 AM, my FaceTime was still on with her, so I meditated, I got ready, and then I just sent a text saying, I've got up, but I've left the FaceTime on. Then I got up and I started my day. One of the best chapters in The Way of the Superior Man is called something like, if you don't have a purpose, discover it now. I think it's impossible to become a driven, masculine man that is more attractive to women if you haven't discovered a goal to pursue or some sort of passion you get lost in thought about. I've really regained my focus in the last few days back onto the YouTube channel, which is my purpose right now, and I felt so much more driven and fulfilled, regardless of what happens with this girl. If you feel like you can actually connect to this story, then let me know below. I think this is a big dilemma some guys are struggling with, and I'm going to continue putting myself through it to share my lessons with you.